In Silicon Valley, the founder is a sacred figure. Starting a business is seen as the highest form of human achievement. Most startups fail, of course. For the founder, however, failure is never a source of shame. Rather, there is something ennobling about it. Yet this reverence for the founder feels increasingly untethered from the realities of the industry. Silicon Valley is no longer a scrappy place, if it ever was. It is a land of giants, and their appetite for startups is immense. Huge corporations are constantly acquiring their smaller competitors or companies that might someday grow into their competitors. This is not only to protect their position, but to nab some of those revered founders themselves, in the hopes that regular infusions of entrepreneurial blood will keep them young and nimble. They too were startups once. We spoke to a founder who cut a successful path through the ecosystem. This person learned to code, landed at an elite university with deep links to tech, became a founder, and failed upward into a company that was too big to fail. Yet along the way, the founder grew disillusioned. Successes started to feel more like failures. Silicon Valley started to feel strange. How did you start writing code? I went to a perfectly fine public school in Texas. We had a computer science course, but the teacher didn't know anything about programming. We had a textbook, though, and if you were sufficiently self-motivated, you could work through the exercises and then take the AP exam. Fortunately, there were a few of us who really liked to code, so we got together and taught the course ourselves. We all passed the exam, and it helped get me into an elite institution for college. What did arriving at that elite institution look like? It was weird. There was a big cultural gap. I resented my family for not having prepared me for the experience. There were all these kids who went to private schools who were years ahead of me in math. I was angry that I didn't get those opportunities, and that came out as resentment toward my parents for a while. I remember going to my college girlfriend's parents' house and feeling intimidated by the food they ate and the way they talked. But I also knew I wanted to emulate it. Throughout college, I put a lot of pressure on myself to make sure that nobody could say I wasn't supposed to be there. That was the particular form that imposter syndrome took for me. It wasn't about the fear of not being a good programmer, but the fear of not belonging. The path that college put me on created some distance between me and my parents, though. They've never been anything but proud of me, but they stopped understanding me sometime in college. And in the years since, the gaps between our worlds continue to grow wider. To this day, when I call my mom on the weekend, she still asks me if I'm off that day because she doesn't know that people only work Monday through Friday in offices. That's just not the context that she has, and I didn't have it either before I left for college. My stepdad says if I ever wanted to move back home, I could find work because there's a local guy who fixes computers. Apart from the culture shock, what was college like? The school where I went wasn't friendly to failure. It was a meat grinder. When you walked through campus around finals week, you saw kids sitting on the ground crying. Still, it's the kind of place where you make connections that end up mattering a lot later. You meet people who will go on to start companies in Silicon Valley or who will become higher-ups at bigger firms. It's also the kind of place where recruiters track you from freshman year, have dinner with you at department-sponsored events, that sort of thing. That industry interest made me feel special. And when I became a teaching assistant for a computer science course, that interest intensified. I had to do a work study as part of my financial aid, and it was either serving food in the cafeteria or teaching computer science. But teaching paid well, $15 an hour, which blew my mind since my high school job had paid $4 an hour plus tips. Plus, the job was super fun, and the industry attention felt great. Big firms would come in and lavish the teaching assistants with gifts, embarrassing gifts. Sometimes we would go buy cheap tricycles and ride them down a steep hill and play a sort of human Mario Kart. Microsoft found out about it and bought us the highest quality tricycles available. I think it's actually gotten worse since I left. These days, companies send stretch Hummer limos to pick up kids for fancy dinners.